Aloha Kākou Apau. I'm Kaiopua Fife with Free Hawaii TV, a branch of Free Hawaii TV Broadcasting Network. We're here today once again coming to you from the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at the New York headquarters of the United Nations, and we're very pleased to have with us today a guest from Aotearoa, one of our cousins from down below.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora. Yes, this is Te Anu Tuiono. Te Anu Tuiono. Te Anu, I think we might remember in Hawaii as, we would probably say Ke Anu, I guess, with the same thing. Well, we're very pleased to have you with us. Yesterday we spent some time in a presentation. They called it kind of a rollout of an Indigenous portal. And you had quite a bit to do with that. Te Anu, and why don't you explain to our folks who are watching, our viewing audience, what is a portal?
Kia ora. So a portal is like an open window on the internet, and we're using that concept as a way for Indigenous peoples to come to one place and find information by Indigenous peoples for Indigenous peoples. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I heard some rumblings about this a couple of years ago in Geneva. And I thought, well, I wonder what they're going to do with that. And then I didn't hear anything more. And then the next thing I know, here it is rolling out. So it's been a couple of good solid years of pretty heavy lifting, as I understand. And from what we see, it looks like this is going to be a means for Indigenous people all over the world to communicate with each other, provide information, and retrieve information.
Yeah, definitely. One of the key things that came out of that process in Geneva, which was the World Summit on Information Society, we had a gathering of Indigenous peoples, and we really felt that we needed to assert ourselves in this new digital age and to find ways for us to communicate with each other, because there's so many things in common with Indigenous peoples. I mean, we're cousins,
Sure.
Māoris and the Kanaka Māori up there in Hawaii, and so we need to come together at least on a virtual sort of plane. So the portal was a move to try to help that sort of thing come to life.
And the relationship between Aotearoa and Hawaii is really close. I mean, first cousins for sure. But this goes beyond. This goes worldwide. What does it take for someone to participate in this? Obviously, you're going to have some level of expertise, or at least some sort of equipment to participate. Say you're in the middle of in Africa. I mean, how can you take part in that?
We trying to find solutions, because one of the biggest thing that came out of the World Summit on Information Society was this idea of connectivity, or the lack of connectivity. And as we know, Indigenous peoples tend to be on the lower scale of all the good stuff in the world. So we're looking at ways that we could actually host content in those countries. It would be more difficult, for example, to pull information down from a satellite from the United States or England, but it would be easier if this information was just in the people's communities, because there it is, and they can just access it in the same way that you would access it, like an intranet or any sort of local information. So we're investigating, looking at those sorts of ways. Another one of the other real major things is also the different languages that Indigenous peoples use. So initially this portal will be firstly in 4 languages: English, Spanish, French and Russian, because those are the main languages that are being used here at the Permanent Forum. But the software that we use for this portal is really adaptable. You can translate it into Hawaiian or Māori or Quechua, and it's really the human element which we can bring to this bring to the portal will mean how we can sort of use it to develop and support Indigenous languages as well.
Well, Te Anu, as you mentioned, it seems that the Indigenous people are mostly on the lower end, but what I'm seeing, and especially after meeting brilliant young people like yourselves from all over the world, obviously we still have people at the lower end, but the thing that's so reassuring is we've got so many people now that are highly skilled at the upper end of this type of technology. In Hawaii, we have, the same thing, Malia Nobrigo, who we've been working with. I mean, she's just on the cutting edge right along with you on this thing, and to me, that's what's really reassuring. the difficulties in communicating, with some of our brothers and sisters around the world, I didn't even think about, because I automatically open a computer and do what I do or pick up a cell phone. But I was in Switzerland a couple of years ago, and we had a meeting with people from all over the world, and I talked about some of the work that we do with video in the Kiwani Foundation. And I said, it's really a terrific way of communicating. And the people were very pleasant, and they said, oh, yes, we think so too. And so I said, is there some way that you could do this? And he said, well, it's a little difficult for us because, he said, there's only one television. We're thinking of videotapes, video cassettes. So there's one television, and it's in the chief's house. And we can't use it unless someone provides gasoline for the generator to power the television. And so, I mean, that's the level of extremes that we have to always be aware of. And I know we had some discussions about that yesterday. You folks, have you talked about how to bring some of the others up to speed? I know what you're going to do is you're going to wind up having the coordinators in the various regions of the world. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've divided up this part of the project into 8 different regions, and we've got like a budget to fund regional editors. Mm-hmm. So we want those regional editors to be in a place where they also have like a support network and like an organisation which is supporting them, so that all the other organisations and communities and other Indigenous peoples in the area can come to this person or this organisation, and from there upload their content, or we'll have a process in place. For example, if the generator's not making the TV go, where we could maybe just bring some CDs or whatever, and then just send it to a place where uploading is not a problem. Yep. So I think we'll have different processes or different ways of working, because Indigenous peoples are different. We're in different circumstances.
Right.
There's different cultural differences. There's different geographies,
Yep.
and so we're designing this so that it's as flexible and as user-friendly as possible for Indigenous peoples. Having firstly in the 4 languages, and then hopefully extending it to Indigenous languages, and just one of the other things that came out of the World Summit on the Information Society from our perspective was the really strong desire to form Indigenous to Indigenous partnerships. How you were talking about how you were communicating with these other people, because often you have non-Indigenous peoples going into Indigenous communities, and it's a different sort of relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we've got Indigenous peoples helping other Indigenous peoples, because like as you said, there's more of us developing skills who would like to reach out and it's digital solidarity, if you want, to support our brothers and sisters across the digital divide, to use these tools and skills and portals and internet and whatever else to support the global struggle for Indigenous self-determination. I mean, that's the reason why we're here.
Well, I heard you use the term digital divide, and I can kind of see what that is, but it's kind of like people from elsewhere who think of the ocean as something that separates us, whereas we island people think it's something that unifies us. And maybe this is going to be not a digital divide, but a digital unifying agent for us. Tiano, I want to thank you very much. We're going to wind it up here. I appreciate it once again. It was a pleasure to see you, and we hope to see you in your homeland at some time. This is Kaiopua 5 from Free Hawaii TV Broadcasting System, coming to you once again from New York City at the United Nations. Aloha.